Hello, SnowNerd. Just another update video on the Room Creator component and map editor project I've been working on for the last few days. So I've done a bit of updating on that today, so I just thought I'd talk through the updates I've done. It's now on version 1.1.0, which is more stable release basically, and also the GitHub landing page is it's better as a landing page to the GitHub and like links to relevant demos and the map editor as well, so you can try it out. And I've done basically quite a few fixes. So what I'm going to do in this video is just again cover the basic use of it and just go over the changes I've applied. So first change, just as it's right in front of me right now, is the GitHub pages, sort of like a landing page of actual information on what it does. You can visit that git.snow on github.io a-frame a-frame underscore room creator. There's a little bit of documentation which I've already basically covered in the last video, just how to as you'll see there from the screen grab though, I've updated the UI a bit. I've done a bunch of bug fixing as well, as especially around positioning, which was a bit off before. The basic build system's the same, but it's no longer basically the UI and the overall feel of the map editor is a lot smoother. The rest of it's pretty much the same. I've also added indoor mode so that basically you can flag if a room is indoor, and then the rooms component will automatically add a ceiling, which is obviously quite useful. Anyway, I think what we'll do is I'll just there's a VR demo as well, but because I'm not in VR, there's not that much point of showing it. But this is basically, obviously if this was in VR, this has got there's also gaze-based movement. So if you're in VR, for example, if you just stared at the part of the floor for long enough, you can move to that part of the floor and create these like sort of makeshift 2 rooms. Not the best, but design-wise, but I just mocked it up really fast just to sort of demonstrate it. There does seem to be a little bit of a bug with this though. So for example, this is basically 2 rooms which are positioned together, but if I do this, it does seem to break the, so like if I go into, for example, into the second room, it seems to break the gaze-based VR controls. Probably something to do with the referencing a specific index, I guess, because basically how it works is this gaze cursor looks at a point and then resets its own the player position based on the position of the what index it's looking at in the array, which represents this room. But yeah, that seems to be a bit broken at the minute, so I'm not sure why, but let me just go back again. And then the standard demo is just the same basically, it's the same as it was, except there's a roof. So that's showing the, like I was saying, there's an indoor flag you can put on. So this is a room now that has the indoor flag turned on, and as you can see it's added a ceiling. And then this one, for example, doesn't have that flagged, so it doesn't add a ceiling. That means you can add indoor and outdoor rooms, which of course is very useful. And it's all it is literally just adding a flag for indoor or outdoor. If you add an indoor flag, then the component will just add a ceiling, which is obviously quite useful. And as you can see, the positioning is obviously a lot fixed. There was a lot of bugs that still left in the earlier version, which would prevented which was basically just making the positioning be a bit off with the but now it should be fine. This is just like one of the demos of the, not the most inspiring of demos, but I'm probably going to update those soon. I was thinking of making something like a park with some makeshift buildings in or something, an outdoor scene and an indoor, I don't know. Let's see if I get to it. Anyway, let's go into the map editor and I'll just talk through that. There's a lot of changes on this as well. Just full screen this thing. So this is the map editor now. So I fixed the templates as well. So I prefer this look as well, it's just the grass background instead of like the quite severe one that was on before. It's full screen too, it's not an embedded A scene anymore, which I think was actually causing the camera issues, which was mega frustrating, even for me as a user. Yeah, just modded the UI a bit. I think it looks just a lot more easier on the eye. You can now switch between 50 by 50, that's a 50 by 50 one, and 100 by 100 also works. So if you want to make a really large scene, that's now very possible. There you go. So that's loaded a 100 by 100 scene now. So let me just quickly try and build something. This might take a while. I'll probably have to fast forward it when on the real thing, but let me just design something. It's just a lot more easier to use now, basically, to be honest. And I'll gonna build like some basic structure. I'll build something that like, approximates, I don't know, like a block of flats or something. And obviously, like I said before, you could use this to build an outdoor area. It doesn't even have to specifically be a room. So I could build this up. No good way. I could build this up and basically like a block of flats, and then I'd apply certain texture. The only thing is, obviously, is each block is its own. It can become quite stretched unless you've got a certain type of texture. That is a limitation. Like, I don't know how to. I'll add like a. Yeah. I mean, this obviously can be built on a lot more, but this is something I've just been hacking out in my spare time. It's like the quarter one, with like a sort of. I don't know. I'll make something really simple, fast. I don't want to bore people on here for too long. I'll probably fast forward this bit as well, but yeah, I'll fast forward this bit. This one. So I've just mocked it up really fast. I don't want to be here for like a long time because this is a 100 by 100 map, so I'll be here forever. Well, not forever, but for probably about at least half an hour. So I'll just try this version out first on my local build. It probably would be useful actually to have it so you could load it into on a demo version, but I haven't gotten to that yet, so just load up my standard one, comment two things out for a second, and which one is it set to? Map. Go to map. Again, same procedure as before, except I'll have to change the width and the height to 100 because this is a bigger template. I do probably need to automate that, and I do think it's going to be very possible, so I may well add that feature soon. To be commented, and I'll just quickly load up the standard example and see how it looks. It should look okay, I think. There we go. So, and then change it to change it to 100. So this is what I mean about you have to load in the correct width and height because it relies on that value to create the actual room itself. Otherwise you get weird results. So now this should load fine. It's quite a lot to load because it's 100, isn't it? There we go. Yeah, that's basically what I just sculpted. It is indeed. But obviously that's not really exactly how we want it because it's quite small. I mean, it's an indoor scene as well. So I'll just switch that off. So let's just make something huge. So I want a sense of grandeur to this example, right? So I'm going to go set the indoor flag there to false. So like I said again, I said that I was setting it to true before, which was adding the ceiling, but now I'm going to set it to false so it doesn't do that. And I'm going to make the wall height much higher, like really quite high, and it's be interesting to see what this looks like. And then I'll just leave this video here, but basically just wanted to say that, you know, I've done some updates. Probably going to try and get this done ready for it as an npm package as well. I just need to do that over the next 2 days, and then it should be done with this project, unless I want to add more stuff. And there'll probably always be something more I want to add to these things. Yeah, there you go. So that's much more of a grand scale, sort of big buildings. You can see that the wall height's been modified. It's probably a bit too high now, to be honest. But you could create like a sort of factory, I'm sure, pretty easily. The textures aren't obviously appropriate at the minute, but like say for example, if I wanted to swap out and create, I don't know, this, just have to use your imagination a bit, like grass texture, grab something quickly, just get whatever, grass, let's go grass, and just find where that is, and that should be fairly easy to just swap out the floor texture for that. Just put the textures, it doesn't need to be in a folder. Load in grass. I think I covered this in the previous video, but yeah, you do have to obviously still load in your assets as you would normally. Grass JPEG. Switch the floor texture to just grass, the ID with the new one I want it to do, and that should now be different. Hopefully, there we go. Yeah, it's got that weird reflection on the grass, which you wouldn't have obviously, but we've got grass now on the floor. It's not perfectly seamless, so that's why you can sort of see that it's a texture that's been, could get a seamless one. So obviously an important thing if you're going to do texturing with this component is that the textures are seamless, otherwise it's very obvious that they're not, essentially. And yeah, this isn't anything too advanced, like in terms of texturing. You can create, you can assign a custom per wall space, so that looks a lot better. It looks seamless now. That looks like more like grass, and I'll add like a factory just to see how this looks. Factory texture, seamless, seamless. Go here. That might even do it, but it's probably too. You probably want it something a bit thinner. Maybe even something like that, I guess. But this is, I'm just doing this to show that you can do. It's sort of like building Lego, right? That limits your imagination, and you can use it for that sort of scenario. Say if you want to model some sort of 3D industrial estate or whatever, like a few series of rooms which are a bit basic geometry. So just go factory, if we called it. Yeah. Change the wall height, wall texture, or just wall texture, which is the main one, which is full height, to that. Now this should, if it works, it might look a bit dodgy though. I'm not exactly tested it. Yes, it's a bit stretched, but basically that does that. The only problem is it does it around there as well. I could add it to 2. That is one limitation, certainly. I mean, wouldn't necessarily need to have make that grunge again. I wouldn't necessarily have to have the walls all around. That's just there. It's just tie you off, because obviously the reason I've done that, of course, for the templates, is that you wouldn't want to have to. So that looks a bit better. That's still a bit stretched, as you can see, but it basically, if you wanted to create something like a mock-up scene, would be suited for like a game or something. Probably that would need to be a bit thinner, more like a column really, which might work. Something like, just for my own curiosity. You can stop watching now if you're bored already. But for my own curiosity, I think that would. No, that's really not gonna work. If I did something like this. Just save it as factory actually. Downloaded that and then made it basically, instead of it being 2 columns, made it 1. Yeah, one of the limitations I suppose of the component is that it's basically doing like rows of so yeah, for stretch, there are situations where it can stretch the textures, I guess. I'll save that quickly, load it up again. Should just but I mean, like I said, you can get creative with it. This is a free component that's just released for free. Well, that looks a bit better. And then you've got like essentially a roughed up sort of apartment block, and you can go crazy. Like even if I wanted to make this, oh I don't know. Like currently it's set quite high, but I could set it even higher if I wanted. So I could set it to, well, I don't think there's even a limit. So set it to 50. There isn't really a limit. I've not applied the limit programmatically, so you could probably go completely crazy. This will be huge now. This will be like skyscrapers. Yeah. Actually, that's interesting. Didn't know that would happen. That's very odd. That's probably some. That's actually a bug I've discovered. Okay, maybe make it less than that. 20. I don't know why that's probably something to do with the positioning, because I've just added such a high value. Interesting. Not had that happen before. So I had 20 just because it's just to see what it does. There we go. So again, it's taller. You could even add, like, if you want to make it really small, just get wall height 1. This will really be diddy now. But you get the idea. You can play around a bit as you wish. Make it tall. Make it. This is like small town now. Probably a common sense one if you're going to do something like this and try and make it realistic would be 8, I guess. Something it's not too huge, it's not too diddy, as we say. So yeah, actually probably a bit taller than that, probably more like 10. Because if we want to represent, like I said, like if we wanted to represent a sort of apartment blocks, if you think about the scale of that, it's probably about, in this world, it's probably about 10. Yeah, it's like 3 blocks high. Okay, so I'll just freestyle some things. Obviously, a good way to enhance this would be if, like, say for example, if we wanted to build upon this room creator component, would be the ability to add foliage, maybe just randomly distributed foliage. Say if you're creating an outdoor scene, for example, it would be beneficial to be able to define some foliage and then just have that distributed randomly away from the actual cubes themselves. Probably not even that hard to do, to be honest, just a case of randomly generating some positions, and yeah. Okay, so channel news in general. I think I'm gonna work on. I think I'm gonna try and create a few more components. I'm quite enjoying just in the time I've got off working main work at the minute, just creating component libraries and exploring that and creating tools. Something I probably want to do a bit more of. Just creating fun libraries and I'm trying to think at the minute of any tools that might be useful. So if you have specific ideas for something that you might want to see in either A-Frame or even anything else, any tools you want to use for game dev or even utility tools, let me know, because I'm thinking of stuff to work on at the minute, and just I want to create these sort of like libraries of useful tools, and just get more into doing like basically tool dev. Anyway, this has been a long rambling video now because it's 20 minutes, so I'll leave it there. I've been NoahNerd. That's that. Bye.